Good afternoon and welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. As always on a Sunday, we'll have Newcastle fans from around the world. We always have some new starters and we've done well, mate. Toon Army Toronto, take a bow. That's the most we've ever had on one camera. Welcome, lads. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. And I think it's great to be able to give an opportunity to different groups around the world to come on. And when you make an effort like that, make a bit of a thing of it, it makes it all the better. So welcome, lads, and also welcome to Spenny Mag, Nathan, Daz Shocks, and our pal Al Walid as well. Great to see you all, lads, and thanks for coming on to discuss the last 7 days at Newcastle United. And as we know, there is always something to talk about. So let's start with the positives and let's kick off with Toon Army Toronto. And I know there's 4 of you there, so I'm sure you've all got something to say. Let's talk about the positives. 2 friendly games, albeit against lower league opposition, but 2 wins and Andy Carroll with 2 goals. It's a positive start, lads.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's good to see that Andy Carroll's already on the scoring sheet twice. Hopefully that consistency can roll into the start of the league against West Ham. Shame about the injuries, as we all know. But from my perspective, the team seems to be gelling really well. Would love to see them play the full 90 minutes rather than the highlights. But from what I've seen, it's been really good.
Yeah. Anybody else?
No, for sure. I think hopefully Andy can stay healthy a little bit. It's good to see him in this level of form quickly, and we're only 2 weeks away from the start of the season. So if he can stay healthy, and we need a striker with Gale out, so hopefully he can be that guy to step in and give some good minutes.
True. Yeah, you mentioned the injuries. I mean, that's obviously, a bit of blow is losing Dubravka. We know how important he was to us last season. And from our perspective, we've got Mark Gillespie, who's come in, relative unknown as far as the Premier League's concerned. And obviously we've got Carl Darlow. Obviously loaned Woodman out, but the goalkeeper is a major concern. And if we don't sign any forwards, losing Dwight Gale is going to be a concern as well if Joe Linton continues his form from last season. And obviously we always have the worry of Andy Carroll getting injured.
Yeah, the keeper in particular is a big problem, I think. The way we play, if we don't adapt the style of play and go more attacking, we rely so much on Dubravka. And I don't think Darlow or Gillespie have it in their locker. I'd say that about Gillespie. I honestly haven't seen a lot of him, but I feel like if he had it in his locker, he'd have probably been on my radar before he moved here.
Yeah. One last thing before I move on to Spenny Mag, and that is the coverage. You mentioned that right at the start, and I mean this is worldwide, and people in Newcastle, but people around the world. The coverage not great, as you say, only highlights from our first 2 friendlies. But what's more concerning is with fans not allowed in the ground. Newcastle hasn't been selected for Premier League coverage. Now, potentially you'll be able to watch it on a hooky box in some far off place or up in Spennymoor, but it's a bit disappointing, isn't it, that they haven't made the same arrangements that they did at the back end of last season where every game was televised.
It's crazy. Over here we're lucky enough to be okay. The rights are with DAZN, which are a streaming service, so you get on demand for all the games. There's no 3 p.m. blackout or anything like that. But I read somewhere that the only 3 countries you can't watch live Premier League football, one of them is the UK, which seems absolute madness to me. I don't get it. The other one, ironically, Saudi Arabia, but let's not go there.
Exactly. Gary McBurney's got a question for you, lads, across in Toronto. How did 4 of you all come together?
You go for it.
Yeah. We all joined at different times. I actually founded the group back in 2009. And it was just me and a Liverpool pub. So I guess over the years we grew numbers, and through the long Ashley years, and we changed pubs and found our own home. And then Aubrey joined us, and then Ben's joined us since then, and he's taken over a lot of the social media stuff and helps me run the damn thing. And more recently, Michael's joined us. And he's one of our many Irish members here in Toronto. And we just we all suffer together, really.
Yeah, and just to add to that as well, so we had Sean Longstaff come over at the end of last season when he was injured. So it was around April time. He came over with his dad. We reached out to him because we saw he was coming to Toronto to watch the NBA and the hockey finals. So we ended up asking him to come down to the pub where we were at the time. And basically we spent some time with him watching the Brighton game, which was pretty cool. So that gave us a lot of exposure. I guess we have around, on average, before the pandemic, of course, about 40 fans come together in Toronto as early as 7:30 in the morning for us. And it's just a lot of fun, really.
That's great stuff, lads. Well, thanks for joining us today. Obviously, we'll be coming back round with other topics as we get through the next hour. Spenny Mag, good afternoon, mate.
Good afternoon.
Good to see you. Just literally what we've talked about there with the Toon Army Toronto guys, and it's, you know, an encouraging start to pre-season. I mean, these games are there to blow the cobwebs out, but you know, two games, 2 wins. Carroll on the score sheet. The injuries have obviously, you know, put a little bit of a cloud over it. But what's your take been on the last 7 days at Newcastle?
Hey, the best thing about it is Carroll's not getting injured. He's played 2 games and not got injured, hasn't he? And he scored 2 goals. I think that's about the best about the friendly. If you watch the friendlies, the highlights, it's like watching a training pitch. I must be on the training pitch out there. I don't think none of them are in the stadium when they're playing. Really safe. I don't know why they're not playing in the grounds. I know other friendlies are there, but like I said, the last 7 days, still waiting at me. Still in limbo, like you said. And I know there's a bit of a debate going on about these season tickets going on as well, about the people not getting the money back, which I think is totally out of order. People have paid the money and they're getting like a credit. So they've kept the credit in case of the takeover so they can get the next season ticket out. And the credit's gone. They haven't got the money. They've been ringing the box office up and they haven't got the money. So I don't know what the hell's going on there. I know they're getting involved with this.
Yeah, I've spoken to a couple of supporters and we've had exactly the same. They've had exactly the same problem, you know, exactly the same issue where they haven't had their money, and that's a bit disappointing on the club's behalf that they're in. You know, they haven't got to, you know, they haven't got round to it, or there's been an oversight. I think they've said it's very disappointing. But hopefully, hopefully that'll all get resolved within the next 7 to 10 days. I've seen messages like that. So yeah, but are you one of those affected?
No, I haven't had a season ticket since Kagan left the second time.
Right. Right, okay.
Straight away. I only still go to matches 6 or 7 times a year at home and go a couple away. But it wouldn't put me money to actually, you know what I mean?
No, fair enough, mate.
You know what I mean?
Fair enough. Al-Walid, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you, lads?
Hey, how are the lads? Good to see you, mate. What's your take been on everything this week? I mean, you know, have you managed to see the games, the highlights?
Actually, I saw the highlights. It's not very strong teams we play against. Very sorry for the injury of the Dubravka and Gael, but at least still we have time for at least almost 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks for starting the season. Regarding Andy Carroll, I think everybody now, the media, talking. We need a striker. It's like he's sending a message by these 2 goals. Like, here, I am a striker. And hopefully, we'll do much better against Stoke City. I think it's the last game before the season start. I wish if we can play against much or more stronger team to find or to focus more on what we are missing, what the squad actually needs for start the season, and this will not happen unless we play against a stronger team.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point, Al-Walid. It's been very difficult, I think, to arrange friendlies. So it'll be interesting to see, as you say, how they actually do. Andre, come to you next, mate, because you're on my screen next. How are you, mate?
Hello, guys. I had some internet issues, but here am I. So hello to everyone.
Yeah, welcome, mate. Good to see you again. Just your review of the last 7 days, really, at Newcastle, and then the friendlies in particular. As I say, 2 wins against lower opposition, but it's 2 wins. It's a good habit to get into winning football matches.
I just saw the highlights, so I was impressed by the goal by Kero in the game against Crew. Also, I hear that Jacob Murphy actually played really well yesterday, and I'm happy for the guy. And I don't know if he'll get a second chance, but by the looks of it, it seems so. I was, of course, pretty disturbed by the injuries to Dubravka and Dwight Gale. I think actually that the injury of Gale can be a blessing in disguise if, let's say, it makes the management to really go for another striker now that it's only Carroll left in the whole squad. But with Newcastle, you never know. And of course, with Dubravka, arguably the best player in the past 2 years. So big chance for Darlow now. Honestly, I was very, very surprised to hear the rumors and about Rob Holding and the Brazilian central defender Marcao from Galatasaray. Actually, we discussed several times that the only position where Newcastle is really well covered is in central back, center halves. And now they go for 2 more guys, which first of all means that probably Lejeune, Shearer, Clark are on their way out. And second of all, these are the positions where Newcastle needs any support anybody's in. And I'm really surprised, but apparently there is truth in the Rob Holding rumors because I saw it in 5-6 very credible sources, and apparently it's happening today or tomorrow.
The problem is with some of those players that you've named, it's all very well wanting to get rid of them, but the issue that we always have is that the wages are astronomical, and Muto's wages, for example, have been touted at around about the £54,000 a week mark. If that's correct, then who on earth is going to take Muto on that kind of money? He's not going to want to drop. He's just going to want to sit, isn't he? So we're going to have some issues. And I heard a rather unnerving report from somebody at the club. He's had 50% hit rate of being right and 50% hit rate of being wrong, this kid. But, Bruce hasn't got a clue what his budget is. And if that's the case, what chance has he got? If he doesn't know what he's dealing with, then, it's like throwing a penny down a wishing well, which is a tradition in England, and hoping that hoping that dreams come true. But it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And, as we talked several times, the squad is currently 25 players of the senior players that needs to be registered. Now you need to release or to sell in order to bring new players in. They already have Jeff Hendrick. There are people like Atsu, like Mutu, like some other players. We thought Jacob Murphy is among them that you need to get rid of, you need to dispose of before you can bring anyone in. And I don't think that currently they have a clue on, or they better have a clue on what their next steps are. Bringing 2 central defenders in the current climate seems illogical to me. These guys know the club better than me, but to me it doesn't make sense.
That's fair enough, Andre. As always, you make your point well. Nathan, good afternoon, mate.
Hi, mate. You all right?
Yeah. What's your take on the last 7 days and the results? And maybe touch on what Andre has been talking about as well, the players that we're being linked with at the minute.
Yeah, I think in terms of you were talking about the budget, I don't really think there ever is a budget for us going into any season. I think it's a case of what I'm kind of expecting this season is that aside from any takeover stuff, if there is no kind of takeover stuff materializes at all before January, I think we'll be in a position where the season that we did when we went out and spent quite a lot of money in January and brought in Sissoko and 1 or 2 of the other French lads. I think we'll do something like that this season where I think Ashley's looking at the club now and he'll probably see that where we finished last season, even though not taking into account that we kind of stumbled over the line and we were just non-competitive at all in the last sort of 4 or 5 games. I think we'll get to a point now where he'll try his luck, like he has done every season. He'll flip the coin and we'll get to January and then maybe we'll spend in January to protect his investment. I think that's where we'll be that's the position that we're going to be in. I think what we're seeing some players drift into the team like Murphy and like Gale. Let's not forget we've been talking about offloading Gale for years and years now, haven't we?
Yeah.
His move to West Brom never went through, even though they were talking about making him permanent at one point. Murphy's been out every season on loan, so we're looking at these players now who we're thinking are going to play quite a vital role in our season, but they've been the ones that we've been trying to get rid of, for the last sort of 3 or 4 years now. Some of the signings that we've made, obviously Muto and stuff, we've not seen any return from the money we've spent on those and the investment that we're spending every week on the wages, if they are as you say, 50-something thousand a week. It's weird. We get linked to quite a lot of players. I looked at the lad from Celtic, the forward from Celtic, and
Eduardo.
That's right. Yeah, and they were talking like 30 million for him. I can't see us going out and spending 30 million on a striker, even though that's been talk of what the budget is. But like I said, I don't think there is that actual budget in place. So yeah, I think taking stock of the team, I think he's going to run his luck this season, push his luck, and try and think that we've got enough to get, like to finish 17th. That's what we're going to go for. He'll look at that team and think, yeah, we've got enough to get us to that point. And I think that's kind of reflected in the transfer window so far for us.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I see there's a few messages coming in saying, Steve, get on to your mate Amanda. Look, it's ongoing, guys. I can't be any more blatant than that. And if and when that does collapse, then you will hear something. But take the silence as a positive. That's what I would say. And from my perspective, I'm still very confident that deal can be done. If it's not done, it won't be for the one to try. And if it's not done, I'm sure you'll hear from the prospective buyer side as to why it hasn't been done. But, everything that you saw happen a couple of weeks ago happened for a reason. And I just take a positive from, looking at everything that's going on in the background when, you're seeing little things like UEFA and FIFA coming out saying that they don't have any objections to states owning football clubs. I think that's a massive positive this week. You've got to look what's going on in the background, guys. And if you want to get through life thinking that it's over and then just be delighted if it does go through, then that's probably the best way to deal with it. Everyone deals with it the same. I've forgotten about it. I've switched off from it. I'm concentrating on the season and looking ahead to what's happening on a zero budget and with a current squad that we've got. That's what I'm doing. I'm not building my hopes up. If it happens, I'll be as happy and as excited as everybody else. But don't expect Amanda Staveley or anybody on the buyer side to be coming out and saying anything at the moment, when they're still trying very hard, to get the football club, bought. And Mike Ashley is doing his bit. He's coming out and dismissing some of these fanciful claims by other parties that they're in the running when they're quite clearly not. So, yeah. And I saw a comment there before we'll come to Daz and then invite Martin in as well. I think Martin's joining us about another potential takeover, which, again, I hadn't heard of. David Scott, who's apparently put in a £320 million bid to buy Newcastle United. I don't know who David Scott is. I mean, it sounds like somebody you'd meet down the big market on a Friday.
Roma?
No, that's Palotta, isn't it? That's somebody who sounds as if he's from a Goodfellas film. This one's David Scott, who sounds like he lives next door to anybody in Spennymoor. Well, exactly. It's just a strange one, isn't it? So, look. If he's only got the money to spend on the club and he hasn't got any money to buy players, it's an absolute waste of time. Anyway, that's me little rant over on that. Daz, hi mate. I hope you're doing well. Good to see you. Good to see you. Give us your views on. Yeah. Hi Martin. Welcome, mate. Give us your views on the whole. Give us your views on the whole situation. Over the last 7 days.
Yeah, sure, Steve. Yeah, no, it's great that we got 2 wins. It's great to see Carl scoring in friendly matches. It's great to see Jacob Murphy on the pitch and scoring. He's like a new signing now. That's what
you're sounding more and more like a Mike Ashley convert. Like
yeah,
one of them.
let me go take the other direction and go. We're a sinking ship with the injuries we're after having with Gale, who doesn't look at the moment as things stand that we're bringing in a striker. I'm sure we will. We have to. But with the keeper getting injured, that's the big worry. And just something that you touched on as well with the number of our games not getting televised. I wonder, is that anything to do with the potential for a plane to fly over with a banner that won't say "We the Northeast"? It might say something else. But I'm sure that's coming into the equation as well. But hopefully, as you say, Steve, that hopefully something is being worked on in the background, and hopefully we get some brighter news early into the season.
Yeah, Martin, I hope you're doing well, mate. We're just asking the question: what's your take been on the the last 7 days, in particular the 2 wins, the 2 friendly wins? Andy Carroll, 2 goals in both those games, but then obviously losing those 2 players to injury in Dubravka and Gale.
Yeah. Afternoon, everyone. Yeah, I think like Daz said, it's good to get a couple of wins. Carroll scoring, but I think again you got to look at the competition. we were playing who we were playing. We weren't playing a Liverpool or a Chelsea. I think the injuries. I think a couple of weeks ago I made the comment. We were texting whatever, and I made the comment about the medical team, and I said if we can keep to low injuries or nothing, we'll be okay. And we're 2 weeks away, and we've lost the only guy that was scoring goals for us the back end of last season, and we probably lost the other guy in Dubravka who probably got us 10 points last season. So if you take away the goals and you take away the 10 we got from Dubravka, again, I think if we don't get a striker in, and reading the papers this morning and yesterday, it's like Bruce has this, he seems to have this want for more and more defenders. Like I see we're linked to your man from Galatasaray now. There's rumours of the lad from Porto, who I think is 29, I think it is. I haven't actually had a look at him. I don't know what his goal stats are like, but I just think if we don't, who's he going to run with? He's probably going to start Darlow, I would think, before Gillespie. Yeah. I think, look, Darlow will, he's a good shot stopper, but he's inconsistent. I think in when we've had tougher matches, good penalty saver. So there's a chance that might do as well. But I just think again, Hendrick looked okay. I think we'll maybe have a little bit more better passing accuracy. But if you've nobody at the front to do nothing with it, then I still think we'll struggle. I really do.
Always the concern of losing players as well.
Yeah, well, I think you look at Dubravka. Some of the saves from last season for his first season through were unbelievable. And I think you look at some of the games, the middle of the season, he probably kept us in some of them to scrape through or not get as heavily defeated. But that's got to be worth 10 points to you. It has to be, in my book.
Yeah, I agree. Let's go down the direction of Almiron next for everybody. And we'll start with Toon Army Toronto because the question is directed to you. Any thoughts on Almiron? Has he lived up to the transfer fee and his MLS record? Over to you, lads.
You go first, yeah.
The transfer fee, probably debatable, I'd say. The MLS record, it's been pretty comparable. Like, he was never a big scorer for Atlanta. I think it was 12 and 42. He's never been prolific, but he does add a lot to the team when he's out of it. It's just the pace and the threat, in my opinion, worries the other teams, even if the end product is inconsistent, to be polite. It's, I prefer to have him than not at this point. And to be frank, we don't really have a lot of other options. We don't have a like for like. We've obviously got St. Maximin, who's equally as fast with same sort of end product. But no, I'd rather have him than not in some.
Yeah, no, the one thing I would say watching Almiron at Atlanta was he runs a lot. Like, he ran for days, and he was very good at, setting up an actual striker in Martinez at Atlanta. That's what he's basically done here. Like, his work rate's incredible. He is, like, it's very good. The question, do you want to pay what was at the time a record transfer fee for a guy who just has a good work rate? That's a different story altogether. But I do think that if we were able to get an actual striker in, and he was able to either play on the wing or as a number 10 behind an actual striker, I think he'd be still a very good Premier League player here.
I think he's probably one of our top 3 players. Like, that's maybe the bar isn't that high, but also I think he'd be better in a better team and under a better manager. Like, he's under Steve Bruce, and like he does have to take some of the responsibility, but I'd definitely put him in our top 3 best players category, if you know what I mean.
And for me, I would say that the issue we've got is inconsistency. I've seen his game style improve a lot. So I noticed when he first started with us, he'd run the ball into sort of a dead spot out on the wing, and he'd look at his feet all the time. But when he's got his head up and he's aware of his surroundings and the players around him, he's a completely different player, and he can actually add a lot of quality to the team. The pace is a big one as well. We want that fast pace going forward, especially with Max on the left side. He can draw players out and create pockets of space to play the ball into the centre and give opportunities for shots on goal. I think my issue really with Almiron is his last touch. So it's when he shoots on goal. Yeah. He can most times hit it too soft, scuff the ball, or not get it on target. So that's an area that I think he needs to improve. But there's a lot of opportunity there for him to be a permanent team player in the bigger picture from my perspective.
Do you believe in Miguel Almiron? Sadly say, I really don't think he's strong enough. No,
I don't think the lads from Toronto got the note that we only do the karaoke once a year at Christmas. We'll definitely get you back. We'll definitely get you back. Spenny Mag, go on, mate. What's your views on Almiron? Yeah, he smiles a lot.
I would have played him up front last season at the end, because he was scoring goals. Like he scored 2 in a row, didn't he? 2 games in a row, something like that, 2 or 3. He ended up with 6 goals, I think, in the end. And all he needs is some pinching boots. I will put him up front. Give him a go up front if you're not going to get a strike rate.
Yeah, his pace definitely frightens people. That's the one thing he's got, and he's working.
Not the finishing bit. You know, when the one first came out for England, with his pace and that, and before he came to Newcastle, that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Almiron, Al-Walid, what's your views on him?
Actually, he's the one of the players you need him in the team, in your squad. I like about him, he's like unexpectable. He's fast. He have good duo with Saint-Maximin. The point Toronto guys mentioned about he should raise his head up to make him improve better. For me, I think he's one of the best players in Newcastle. I would be happy if he continued. And we noticed that he play most of the games lately.
Yep. Okay, Andre, what's your views on Almiron? Is he a flop and a failure, or is he a success? Do you think, or is it a little bit too early to decide?
It's a tough one. I think that when Rafa brought him, he had a certain idea, and I think Almiron brought the best out of Ayoze and Rondon in the second half of the 18-19 season. Afterwards, without Rondon and Ayoze, something was missing, and Almiron was not the same with Joelinton and even with Saint-Maximin. But he was the top scorer last season in all competitions with 8 goals. He has a terrific work rate, and I'm really impressed by the guy. By the fact, I think he can play three football games in a row without getting tired. But at the same time, I agree with the guys from Toronto. He doesn't have a shot on him. He doesn't have a good shot, and he's not a good finisher. I don't think he'll ever be a great goal scorer. I think he can really thrive with a great center forward next to him, either in the role of a number 10 player behind the main striker or just next to him, because he can release spaces, he can create chances for others. But he's missing something to be a really, really great player, because with his work ethic and his pace, if he had the finishing, he could have been on a different level. But I would say that Rafa could have taken really the best out of him, and now Bruce doesn't seem to.
Yeah, Andre, is that vodka? Lauren asks. Good stuff, Nathan. What's your views on Almiron?
Yeah, I think he was quite slow to start, wasn't he? I think the work rate has always been there, which is kind of like the bare minimum that you'd expect, but it's something that's often missing with a lot of the lads that come over from different countries, you know, perhaps where the league's not as intense and as testing as ours is. I think that the fact that he's got that work rate is really pleasing, and you know, he'll always produce some sort of results in a game if he's working that hard. And like someone mentioned in the comments, his most tackles, he gets a lot of tackles in, and he tracks back really well, which is something that you don't get from a lot of these kind of attacking players. I think what I'd like to see him do is I'd like to see him try and work a lot more closely with and maybe sort of model himself more on Saint-Maximin, because what you get with Saint-Maximin is when he's sort of 1v1 against the defender, you know that something's going to come of it, and you know you kind of, when you see him running at someone, you're always kind of sure that he's going to get a pass off, or he's going to get past him, he's going to make the defender work and make the defender do something. When Almiron's got the ball, when he's breaking with it, he breaks really quickly, but then when he kind of comes up against someone, he tends to sort of, he almost looks like he panics a bit sometimes. He's a bit, you know, he doesn't look as like sort of calm and natural when he's actually put under pressure. And that's something I think he could work a lot with Saint-Maximin on. Also his finishing as well. I think what you tend to see is when from my mind over the last 2 seasons, he kind of gets into these good positions in the box, and he has 2 or 3. Every couple of games he'll have like 1 or 2 really golden opportunities to score, and he tends to kind of like just sort of stroke, like kind of side foot his shots all the time rather than putting his foot through it. Like you'll see St. Max get into a position and he'll absolutely welly it, won't he? But then you'll see Almiron and he'll kind of like just try and stroke the ball into one of the corners. I'd like to see him like sort of work on his finishing as well, because I think that would, because he does get himself in those positions, and he a lot of times as well from like corners and from balls into the box, he'll be the first to respond to like a second ball, and he'll get that chance, and then what we'll see is he'll just sort of kind of side foot it into the keeper's hands and that kind of stuff. And so what you want to see is like you want to see forward players like testing the goalkeeper, don't you, making them make a save and working the goalkeeper. So yeah, I think he's got the perfect player there in the team to kind of model himself on and learn more and learn from. And I think that as long as we can kind of keep them both there, I see that progression happening for him. But I think it's just a case of him applying himself. And I don't think there's any doubt that he will, apply himself, because he's that kind of lad, isn't he? And he looks like he's enjoying his time here, and he's kind of bought into the area, much like St. Max has as well. So yeah, I think he's on the right track. But yeah, there's room for a lot of improvement. I would have liked to have seen how he developed under Rafa, because he was very much like a kind of Rafa signing, wasn't he? With he liked to sign intelligent players, and not always the most physical. But Rafa always signed a player that was like intelligent, and like Rondon and Perez, and that's one of his first criteria for picking the players. So I would have liked to see how he would have. I think we'll be looking at probably a different player now, with 2 seasons under Rafa. But yeah, that's where we are. But yeah, things on the right track, definitely.
I agree, Nathan. I think he would have been a different player under Rafa Benitez, and that sometimes happens, unfortunately, when new managers come in, and that the game plan changes. But Daz, your take on Almiron?
I like Almiron. As the lads have said, his work rate is amazing. Just when the lads are talking, it just reminds me of Roadrunner. He runs and runs and runs, and Nini, he once he gets in front of the goal, then he's kind of used up all his energy, and he doesn't have the power then to finish. But he was linked to a few La Liga clubs as well when he started to perform first as well. But it could be, we might see a lot of him this season if we don't get that striker. We could rely on him.
Yeah, no, you're right, Martin. Last but not least, your views on Almiron?
I like him. I think at the end of the day, he's young. He's come from the MLS. Into the Premiership, it is a different pace, and it takes time for him to learn. I think Nathan said the right thing. It's where do you play him to get the best out of him? I think what we need to maybe do is have a look at the likes of when St. Maximin is tying up 2 or 3 defenders as he's running. I think we need to maybe just drop Almiron just off the back of a striker. That when St. Maximin is coming in from the right, you've got maybe someone to pass off, and you've still got that threat there. Whereas Nathan said, he kind of gets to the final third, and I think just the little bit of vision and the final pass is just missing with him. So if it was me, I think I'd play him off the back of a half decent striker. I think if I was still going to start, if they were fit, I'd be starting the season with Carroll and Gale and play Almiron just off him. If Murphy's going to get a run, then I'd play him on one wing and St. Maximin on the other. At least it gives us a bit of attacking option and a bit of speed, and you've got probably Almiron's legs for a bit of backtracking. If you take the tackle he put in against Traore there last season, running back about 60 yards to get into him, I think we may need that if we can't control the middle of the field. So I think that will help. But I think he just needs work with the final third. I think he's a good kid. I think he'll get you a few goals, and he's got that pace. But I think he just needs a bit more finesse.
Yeah, I would agree. I think a lot of people judged him very early on, but I do think, like Nathan said, that the fact that we changed, coaches, after he'd signed didn't help the cause, and I think he would have come good. But hopefully things will change and things will get better. Daz, I'm going to come to you first on the next topic, and that's the goalkeepers. We've mentioned it briefly already. Obviously, with Dubravka injured, Steve Bruce has got a decision to make. He's broke a leg Gillespie in. He's got Darlow, as we know, who, when he's come in, to be fair, hasn't let us down. He's obviously got Woodman out on loan. A lot of people saying we should bring Woodman back, but the guy's not really proven. Who would your first choice keeper be going into the first game against West Ham?
Okay, it has to be Darlow. He played a lot in the championship for us because Sells didn't work out, and Gillespie. We have to get a bit of time to get used to things, I guess. If the option to bring Woodman back was there, I'd take it. If he can be recalled, but we have to start with Darlow. He's got some experience as well. I know he definitely won't be going out to Birmingham. He was linked to Birmingham, so there's no way that's happening. But apart from Darlow, and assuming none of these defenders were linked with can play in goal, it has to be Karl Darlow.
Yeah, Nathan, same question to you. Goalkeeper, who would you go for in that opening game against West Ham?
I'd go with Darlow personally, but I think he's going to go with Gillespie. I think he's gone out of his way to bring him into the club when we've got a good few keepers already. I think he's actually going to go. He probably will go with Gillespie. I think he played like 30 games last season for Motherwell, so I think he's got that experience. I don't know. I haven't seen him play. I don't know how sort of commanding he is, but I think that might be sort of what we need in front of behind the back four. We might need someone with a lot of experience and that commanding presence, because I don't know if Darlow can necessarily do that for us. Having only sort of played in fits and starts for us and coming in when needed. I think we're going to have our backs against the wall this season, aren't we? So we're going to need leaders throughout the team, aren't we? So I don't know much about Gillespie. I don't know if he's that character, but he's got quite a lot of experience, and you would hope he can sort of marshal the defence, because that's what they're going to need, aren't they? If you see, we need that more than ever now, I think, because what we used to see under Rafa was that he'd be sort of in the technical area, and he'd also be like kind of micromanaging everyone, wasn't he? He was telling everyone where to be, telling everyone what to do, and he didn't sit down for the full game almost, did he, until he puts his glasses in his pocket at the end. But with Bruce, what you don't see a lot of that kind of sort of tactile, hands-on man management at every step of the game. So the more people that we've got in the team that can do that, in each position in the team, then the better off we'll be, I think, because that's what we need.
Yeah, Andre, I mean, it's happened many times where a goalkeeper as good as Dubravka gets injured, another keeper comes in, and then the defense takes a little bit of time to get used to the new goalkeeper in there. And because it's such a quick turnaround, and because we aren't playing in friendlies which are against top opposition, it does fear. It fills me with a little bit of fear if they go with Gillespie, because at least the lads at the club will have played with Darlow. They know who he is. They've trained with him. They've been with him. But if they chuck Gillespie in, I think that could be a wrong move. What's your view?
Well, I agree. I think it's a given that if Darlow is okay, he will start the first game. The question comes, what happens if Darlow gets injured? I don't know anything about Gillespie. I saw the guy seems a bit of a character. I saw him doing an improvised karaoke with the rest of the team when they were having lunch or something. And he's also a local lad and a Newcastle fan since he was a kid. So I would love Gillespie to turn out to be a great goalkeeper. But for Darlow, I think it's a great chance to somehow resurrect his career in Newcastle, because he actually started pretty well. I remember towards the end of the relegation season when he saved the Kabai's penalty, and then Rafa brought Matseus in, and still Darlow managed to become a number one. He has a decent season in the championship. And actually the Darlow's, problem was that Dubravka came and he performed miracles in his first game, and ever since then Darlow never had a chance. And let's hope he grew these past 2-3 years. Last season he got some games. He played in all the FA Cup games actually. Let's hope that he manages to take his chance and put some extra pressure on Dubravka when Dubravka comes back. Because I think that it's really somehow Darlow's last chance to establish himself as a Newcastle goalkeeper, because they brought Gillespie, they have Woodman up and coming, and he just signed an extension to his contract. So I think it's now or never for Karl Darlow.
Yeah, fair enough. Martin, your views on the goalkeeper situation?
Yeah, I think in my head, I think he starts with Darlow, but I wouldn't be at all shocked to see Bruce go with Gillespie and go completely against what we might think. I think with Darlow, I mean, he's our current Stevie Harper, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? He's been a great servant. He's sat on the bench. He's seen Dubravka come in. As Andre said, play a blinder last season. He's probably sitting there going, "Oh, hey lads, come on, you're kidding me. When am I getting the shot?" He played the game, so do you go? I think you go Darlow. See what happens with Dubravka and Gillespie for the cup games, maybe. So yeah, I think he'll start with that. But again, it wouldn't shock me to see him start with Gillespie. And as you said, Steve, I think that would just add to the confusion of the back four. To be honest, especially if we bring in another one or two defenders, which it could be carnage.
Yeah, I think you're right. Al-Walid, what's your take on the goalkeeper situation? Who would you like to see start in goal for Newcastle on that first game of the season?
At least Barlow have now time to prepare. Not like it just before the starting of the season. Still, we have days. Most of the goalkeepers, the good goalkeepers, they get only their opportunity to shine when the first goalkeeper is injured. So it's a good opportunity for him. I see a couple of games with Barlow. He did good. I hope another point I want to mention. Dubravka was the highest saves in the goalkeepers last season. This is make me feel that the defense line also need a lot of works. Not just we focus on the goalkeeper.
Okay, Al-Walid, thanks. Benny Mag, your take on the goalkeeper situation, mate, please.
I agree with Nathan, really. I think Darlow will get. I want Darlow to play, but I think he'll go with Gillespie because it's Steve Bruce. His signing, he wants him in. I think that's what will happen.
Yeah. Would that be your choice? I mean, you haven't seen enough of Gillespie, of course. You'd have Woodman back. Yeah.
I would have Freddie Woodman back. I would. Because he's doing well. Is it Swansea's at?
Yeah.
Doing really well.
For some reason, the managers that we've had with Woodman don't seem to have much faith in him. Everyone seems to rave about him. We don't.
Yeah. He needs experience. He's got the experience. It's a bit like Jacob Murphy when he took out on loan last season. Scored how many goals? 9 goals in the championship. Scored more goals than that easy. And now look at him now. Full of confidence when he's come back, isn't he? Once we stopped him at the club.
I think fair enough. If Darlow or Gillespie get injured early on, then we might have to have faith in Woodman.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. I mean, that's the concern. Injuries at Newcastle United, as we know, are quite frequent under certain head coaches, Steve Bruce being one of them. Toon Army Toronto, give us your views then on the goalkeeping situation at Newcastle.
Logically, it has to be Darlow. I think I don't know enough about Gillespie, and I can't see how anyone can to throw him into a Premier League game right away. We do probably have to do more to help Darlow or whoever replaces Dubravka out. We can't rely on them the same way we do Dubravka. One of the guys earlier said Dubravka might save us like 10 points a season. At best, I think Darlow saves us 4 or 5. So we need to do more in that regard, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the other thing, too, is based on the reports I've seen, they expect Dubravka to be back early October. So you're really only looking at 3 to 4 matches where he's out. And in that situation, I'd rather go with Darlow, who, as I think what Steve said, you know what you're getting from him. He's played a lot of the cup matches for us last year. So for that short period of time, I'd rather go with the known quantity. If Dubravka was out for a longer period, then maybe you consider a more drastic change. But for me, it's just Darlow.
Yeah, it's not Dubravka. That's the thing. That's the thing that matters. I guess go with Darlow for continuity. And just hope Dubravka gets fit as soon as possible.
Yeah, and just to concur on that, again, someone mentioned it, the players are used to playing around Darlow. So in my opinion, I'd feel a lot more confident him coming into the squad, especially for the first game. And then seeing how he performs, obviously, and taking it one game at a time. So yeah, just agree with everyone else's
good
comments.
stuff. Andre, I'm going to come to you for the final topic of today, and that's the crowds. Obviously, for you guys, I know it's traveling. You maybe get to 1 or 2 games a year, Andre. But just in general, football in general, maybe we obviously talk about Newcastle as well. But seeing yesterday Brighton against Chelsea, admitting fans for the first time under quite strict circumstances, and people basically having to wear masks at certain points, and sanitization now a must going into the games and within the stadium. But I think it was the fans in the ground. I mean, you're talking potentially 2,500 people sitting there, spaces apart, watching the game. Is that something which you agree with? Do you think that's a great idea, or would you rather it was all or nothing? Give us your views on that, because me personally, I'll tell you where I stand on it. I'd rather nobody was going than that, because it's soulless, and I don't see what on earth. I don't see what good that's doing for anybody. There's no atmosphere can be gained from it. It causes discontent among supporters, because people will be saying, well, why am I not being chosen? I just feel it should be all or nothing. That's my view. It's as simple as that. What's your view, Andre?
The way they're handling this here in Bulgaria is they allowed basically 50% capacity, so you have the stadiums half full, and I think it's a good solution. Honestly, I prefer to have some people in the stadium. I know it's not for me going there, but it's just for some atmosphere, because currently football is not the way we all of us want it to be. I don't know about you guys, but I really cannot. In the past, I used to watch much more games than today, because I cannot take it. It's not the same sport without the fans. And even this artificial atmosphere, I don't, it's so fake. It's like these comedy shows with the fake laughter. I'd rather England and UK go the same way as we do here. First step to be to allow some fans in. How you're right that this will trigger the question on who goes in, because if you have 50,000 or 40,000 season ticket holders, then you need to let 20,000 of them in. And how do you do the selection? And this might trigger some tension. But I prefer to see some people win. And when fans will be back in the stadium, it's a big thing also for us abroad, because as you said, we do 3-4 games per season, and this requires some planning. Basically, you need to know 5-6 months in advance to take your days off, to book flights, to do the hotel, to plan everything. And I told you that I had some trips back in March. I was due to come for the quarterfinal against Man City, and then I had to either rebook my tickets or just lose them. So I rebooked everything for October, and now I don't know, for instance, will there be any fans in October? Will I be let there in the stadium? What do I do with my trip, which is like 6-7 weeks from today? And also for you guys there, I mean, you usually go every second weekend to the stadium. Many of you go to all the away games, and now that you don't know what's going to happen next, it's a pity. I think allowing 50% or even 30%, it's a good first step in the direction of bringing the people back to the stadium.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, Juggers puts money in the bank, which helps the smaller clubs. I understand that. I mean, I'm involved at Dunstan in the non-league, and it's great. We had 200 in on Friday night for Dunstan versus Blythe Spartans. We've got Morpeth at home next week, where we're allowed now to have 400 capacity, I think it is. So yeah, that's good, and it is good for the non-league. But I just think for the Premier League, it's a bit of a nightmare. 30% of a 52,000 capacity stadium is a no away supporters. It's just not. It's not what we're used to. I just feel it should be all or nothing. But that's my opinion. Nathan, what's your view?
Yeah, I think it's like the comment said there. I think it's more important for the lower league clubs, because I think without the gate receipts that those guys rely on every week in, week out to survive and to stay as a viable business, they need to be looked at first, and they need to be kind of prioritized in all this. I think we're talking about Premier League stadiums of they're all upwards of like 30,000 mostly. I think it'll be, like you said, it'll be soulless to be that empty of a weekend with the games on. I can't quite work out why the Premier League have not come to some arrangement or agreement to broadcast a lot of the games. I think at the end of last season, it was a bit of a football overload, wasn't it? When there was 3 games on a day, and games like some of the lower league clashes and stuff. They were pretty bad to watch, and it was a bit of overload for everyone. I think everyone got a bit fed up of it at the end. But in terms of like we touched on, there's no way to sort of legally watch Newcastle in this country until for the first month of the season. It seems like a bit of an own goal, really. They're working so hard to try and stamp out piracy of the Premier League, but then they've not taken, which seems like a bit of a free hit to me, that if they could set some sort of streaming service up, I think everyone would be all over it to watch it. I certainly would pay for a pass or whatever to watch the games. I think the most anyone's going to get is like 10 minutes on Match of the Day. If you look at it, it's usually more like 5 minutes, isn't it? And that's going to be the sort of the limit of our exposure to Newcastle's games. Luckily for me, I've got a Be Out key box loaded up here already. Come on, I'm not joking. But
it's all round the Nathan.
No, but I'm kidding. But yeah, I think it will be a bit of a soulless atmosphere, won't it? With getting sort of 4,000 or 5,000 in a 52,000 seater stadium. I don't think it'll do the lads any good. And like we said, there's limits on like sort of chanting and singing and that kind of stuff. They need to just be led by what's going on in the country, I feel like, and do it all at once when everyone can get back together. Because I think it's there is that debate around. So how do we decide on the 3,000 people that get to go into the stadium? If I get to go and watch the West Ham game, but you get to go and watch Man City, that's not fair as well. About the different tiers of games and stuff, it seems too much of a headache, and they might as well just, I think, focus on the lower leagues where it matters more in terms of their income, and then work up. I think given the situation is changing on like a weekly basis, isn't it, in terms of the COVID-19 stuff. So I think it'll be a different picture in a month's time. In 2 months' time, it'll be different altogether still. So I think just we need to just sit and wait, but give something to the fans so that we can watch our clubs, because it doesn't do anyone any good, does it, if we can't even watch them all. But yeah.
I know a lot of people are up in arms about not being able to watch Newcastle's games, but to be honest, the way we played at the back end of last season, it could be a blessing in disguise.
It's no wonder we've not been selected, is it, really, at all? So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Daz, your views on this, mate?
Yeah, I'd be all or nothing as well, Steve. And then I'd 100% agree with what Nathan has just said there. Having a mechanism that we could all watch whatever game we want, especially this season, because even if things in the second half of the season and it goes somewhat back to some kind of normality, like you could still run with that approach and monetize it and make it available to everybody, especially when being overseas. It'll be great for us.
Exactly, that's a point. I mean, you want it to be televised for you guys, especially where you are. Martin, over to you, mate. Would you have the crowds in? Wouldn't you have the crowds in? Are you happy with the 30%?
I think, like the lads, I think it's going to be all or nothing. For me, the game, not just football, I think any sport that's televised or other, I think is just soulless without people and fans there. I think the fans are what make it. I've kind of watched some of the latter games, the end of the season, with the fake sound on, with the fake sound off, and it's not the same. This season, like I've actually literally last week just cancelled my Sky for sports because I said if I can't watch the games, it's looking like it's going to be certainly heavily pointed towards the top 6, our friends. So I just said, you know what, I'll knock it off. I'll see what comes, and if it improves into next season and fans are back, then you look at it. But I think there'll be lots of people do the same and the same view as Nathan. If we could get a pass, yeah, I'd love that. I'd happily pay a season fee for a pass to watch games home and away without a doubt. So yeah, I'd love to see the clubs do something like that.
It looks like you're getting some kind of divine intervention in there. There's some light shining on you. I'm hoping you're going to come up with something inspirational. Yeah. What's your views on supporters going in and out? I know you're dying to get across to Newcastle and sample the atmosphere at some point. But what's your views on fans being allowed in?
Actually, I'm just trying to count. 30%, it's like 15,000, a little bit more, 15,000. person to go to the stadium. It's not a bad percentage, but I hope I read there is 40% of the games will not be aired live. So I think this special games which will not be aired, it should be more percentage of the audience. Another point, a little bit away. I notice in general the games without fans. It's sometimes it's less pressure on the weakest team on the game.
Yeah,
just observation. I noticed. So let's take advantage of that. Yeah.
No, it's a fair observation. Newcastle often say the crowd is like having a 12th man, and it was notable in some of the home games. We did miss our crowd. Especially Andy Carroll. Of course, people know my views on Andy Carroll. I still feel it was a bit of a showcase signing, and but there's no doubt when Andy Carroll came on the pitch, when there was a crowd there, that if Newcastle were losing or if they were drawn, that it changed the crowd. The momentum built. People saw Andy coming on as a bonus, and there was a chance of getting something, and we did get something out of a couple of games. And we'll come to your question, Jason, at the end of the show, mate. We'll finish up on that. Spenny Mag, fans, should they be in or out? What's your view?
It should be all or nothing. I'm with you, Steve. It should be a full house. I think whoever's come up with ideas must have been going to Sunderland games, because they've been getting 15% attendance for the last 2 years, haven't they?
It'll not affect them, Spenny Mag. Definitely not.
I don't know why the club website can't organise this by going to the club website, put your season ticket number in, and watching a game.
Yeah. I mean, there's ways around this. There is ways around this. That there's.
I don't know, Canada friends and American friends, I can watch it myself on the naughty box, but.
Yeah, no, I understand. I mean, it is one of those things. But yeah, most people seem to agree. Toon Army Toronto. Yeah, I agree. Toon Army Toronto, on to you guys. What would your view be if you were, in Newcastle and able to go to the games? Would you want it to be all or nothing, or would you be happy with this idea of, a round robin selection, basically, of just a lottery draw of who goes each game?
I think I've learned over the last few months, I'd take what I can get in terms of things I can do. If you could tell me it was maybe, March, it will all be over and it's full capacity, I'd say, yeah, wait. But no one really knows when it's going to get back. So I figure if you can get 15,000 in, why not? It's good for the 15,000 to get to enjoy a live game. In terms of the team, I don't think it makes much of a difference whatsoever. 15,000 will still be nearly as bare as playing in front of nobody.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, we've seen situations here in America where they're letting 250 people in or something ridiculously low, and at that point you're just like, why even have anyone at all? I agree with Michael. I think it's even though it it could be a little unfair if someone gets to see Manchester City and someone else gets to see someone who just like West Brom or something. It's still good to I'd rather see West Brom than nothing at all at this point, right? So if I had that opportunity to see, I think that's okay. What really gets me is, it's the TV stuff. Like the idea that you have the blackout to go support like lower league teams, but then you can't go out anyways, and it's still blacked out. That's absurd to me. So hopefully they can resolve that in the next couple of weeks.
I agree. I agree with you, Steve. I think it should be all or nothing. But I think in the case of Newcastle, we're all forgetting. For the last 2 seasons, there's been like this boycott in the background. I really think that our stadium should be empty anyway, as long as Ashley is here. And I know that's a little bit serious, not what really we were talking about. But also the point that it helps the lower league clubs, the gate receipts. So I think they should get people in the stadiums as soon as possible, the Premier League.
Yeah, I think it's fair points on both sides of the argument. Get people in as soon as possible, but also on Mike's point, take what you can get at this point. Take it month by month. Things are changing so fast out there globally. So this month is completely different to what might be in January, right? So I don't think long-term commitment to having 30% fans is the right answer, but to start off that way is something. It gets fans back in there. It gets them engaged with the team again. And although it's going to be, if it'd be at 30% capacity, it's still noise in the stadium to give you that home advantage as well, which is obviously has proved important to us in the past when we've come up against some of these big teams.
Yeah, I'm going to extend the show a little bit, so if everyone's all right, hanging on, we've got a few good questions coming in. And Spenny Maggs just put a good thing in our private chat there. He said the top 6 can get 5 sub rule up for voting again. I'm sure they can look at the takeover. But yeah, let's look at the 5 sub rule. Let's go to the Toon Army Toronto guys first. 5 substitutes. This season it was talked about. People said that it wasn't going to happen, and that more or less agreed we're going to go back to the standard. But now, 5 sub rules up, and if the top 6 cartels say it's going to happen, lads. So what's your views on that? Is that a positive for the game, do you think, having that, or is it just going to show teams like Newcastle at the minute, the deficiencies on the bench?
Yeah, the latter. It's completely unfair in my opinion. We don't, not just us, a lot of teams don't have the resources to have 9 subs and bring 5 on. When you look at Man City's bench, how is it fair that they can bring on maybe Bernardo Silva, who's rested, and we bring on Atsu with greatest respect? Like, it's not the same thing. The general rules of the game, 3 subs, 7 named on the bench. I think we should stick with it. It definitely weighs it in the top 6's favor.
Yeah, I feel like there was no issue with the 3 sub rule. The only reason they went to 5 was because, COVID and you're playing twice a week. So you wanted to make sure that you try to prevent injuries as much as possible. Now that we're back to a more normal schedule where you're just playing once a week in general, it's like there was no need for it. But as Michael said, it's like, the top 6 are like, well, look at all the depth that we have. You look like when we play some of those top 6 teams, their bench is like basically every single one of those players would walk into our starting 11 for the most part. So it's obviously advantageous to them. It's also, to me at least, kind of unfair that it just kind of pops up a week before the season started when it could have affected transfer policies for a lot of clubs, but it is what it is in that regard.
I think Steve Bruce will be licking his chops at the unprecedented opportunity to have about up to 7 left backs on the pitch at the same time. But no, seriously, I although I do think there's an advantage for the richer teams, obviously, just purely the football fan in me, it's an opportunity to see more players, a little bit more tactics from the managers, and I just wish we were in a better situation to take advantage of it. But it's kind of a cool thing. I hope it stays.
For me, going back to Mike's comments, I think it gives advantage to these teams that have got a lot of depth in their squad. Gives them a lot more game time, and I guess you could give that as an advantage to them on top of the advantage they've got already with the players. Slightly off subject, the thing that I didn't like coming back was obviously these water breaks halfway through the half. I kind of feel that was unfair. I mean, I guess it worked both ways, but stopped any momentum. We're not in the NFL. Keep the 45 minutes. Go all guns blazing, and then have your break, and then get back to it. So. Yeah, that's kind of my view on things as well.
Cheers, lads. Great point. Spenny Mag, you brought it up. What was your comment? Are you happy with this substitute rule? You need to unmute yourself, Spenny Mag. You've muted yourself. That's it.
It's just volleyball tactics again. It's been voted down once. Why is it coming in again? And they're running the show again, aren't they? Really? Fair enough. It is a good thing to bring the youth on, getting a bit of experience. If you haven't got big teams like us, we haven't even got 5 decent players on the pitch, man, and 5 on the bench. Have we?
You're right. Al-Walid, what's your view? 5 subs, agree or not?
Actually, I was hoping not, but of course the big teams will get much more advantage on that. But what we can do, and if they decide that, we should also try to get the best of the best thing from this 5 substitution. You can make other choices during the game. You can the players also they can play 100% of their energy because the coach he can play the player he can play strongly for first half, so he can be changed. There is another option for the coach, so we should take advantage of that.
Yep. Okay. Fair point, Martin. What's your view on it?
I mean, like I put in the chat there, the top 6 didn't get the answer they wanted, so they've just rerun it again. Spenny said the same thing. it's kind of like rerunning the Brexit poll. Do you know what I mean? We didn't get the answer we wanted, so let's go again. Like, you're never going to keep everybody happy. For us, I think for Newcastle, the big thing is, as the Toronto Mag said, like, there's no, Chelsea bringing off, Bernardo Silva and what we've got in a comparison. There's probably some clubs have got 100 million plus in subs on the bench, and we've not got that. We're given a chance to, Kel Watts and other lads that we had to bring in the back of last season. So it just distorts it, and again, it just makes part of the game unbalanced and uneven and unfair.
Andre, your views on the substitution?
Honestly, I didn't know that the topic is back on the table. I thought that the decision was taken and they scrapped the 5 subs. If the top 6 are bringing it again, that I didn't know about this. The good thing is that the Premier League needs to have 14 clubs behind a certain decision in order to back it. So if it's only the top 6 and the other 14 clubs are against, it will not pass. And I really don't like it. Of course, it benefits the bigger squads. And of course, it benefits the bigger teams in terms of players. I really liked Sean Dyche from Burnley. Like the first 5 or 6 games after the restart, he didn't use more than 2 substitutions. The guy really played as per the old rules. And I'm surprised that it's back on the agenda. Talking of top 6, just a side comment here. I remember that when Ashley took Newcastle in 2007, how far ahead Newcastle was in front of Tottenham and Man City. And now these 2 clubs are part of a so-called top 6, which dictates what happened in English football. And imagine this was only 13 years ago. But still, I don't believe that since they couldn't pass it the first time, they cannot pass it now the second time.
Nathan, your view on it?
Yeah, I think it's a bit a time where there's like really intense scrutiny over the Premier League and their sort of interactions with their club members. I think it's really unusual timing for them to go back on something and put the vote back on the table again. Like, what's the point if we've already voted on it once? What has changed to make that come back to the table? I'd be really interested to know. I think, can you imagine a situation where it got voted down in the first place and then it was us and 5 of the lower league teams that were kicking up a fuss about it and saying, no, we want it back on the table, we want another vote? Do you think it would have gone back to the table? Almost certainly it wouldn't have. I think it's come at a time where, annoyingly for us, we've had that first vote and we've voted against it, and the majority of clubs have voted against it. We've then sent 2 or 3 players out on loan for the season, and then it's come back to the table. So now we're like, our hands weakened even further because we've sent 2 or 3 lads which would have been on that bench for us, like with the full substitute. So yeah, I think that weakened our position yet again, and it plays into the hands of the top teams. One of the lads in the comments just mentioned something that I talked with one of my friends about when the Project Restart was happening. It'd be good to do something like where half the subs have got to be like homegrown players or under 21 players or that kind of thing. So then it balances out the thing of having, because for us we're going to have like sort of 4 first team players who could get in the first team on our bench, and then we're going to have like the rest is going to be made up of kids. Whereas Man City, they might have 2 kids, and their kids are like Phil Foden and stuff who would walk into our team anyway. So it doesn't, it's not the same type of thing, is it? So they're going to fill their bench with players who would all walk into our team, and we're going to be filling our bench with kids. So I think it's a rule around sort of the limit of over 21 years players. That'd be a good way to do it, and then that gets rid of the thing of what we're trying to prevent is we're trying to prevent injuries, and we're trying to prevent sort of fatigue and that kind of thing, and that addresses that without it being as massively unfair, I think, to a lot of the other smaller clubs. Yeah, and I think it's a case of again playing into the top six's hand, and it's really disappointing to see at a time where there's such critical views on the Premier League and how they interact with the lower league clubs. It just stinks, doesn't it? Again.
Yeah, it does, yeah. I mean, the lower league clubs, as always, are the ones who are going to suffer, and that's concerning, because I think if we do get hit with another bout of COVID, we could be in a situation where we see clubs go out of business, and that would be, that would be tragic. So hopefully we don't end up in that position, but I don't hold much hope. Daz, your views on this? Daz, did you get that?
Yeah, same question, Steve, I presume.
Same question, mate, yeah.
Yeah. So my opinion is changing the rules 2 weeks before the kickoff of the season. The war flags banner springs to mind again with the cartel. And the way I see it, give us our takeover, and then we can have 20 subs if you want. I don't mind. We want Saudi.
We want Saudi. You're definitely right. Approve the sale. Now there was a question. There was a question there from one of our regulars, Jason Carter, asking what positions we would play in a team. So we'll go around the board. I'm glad to say that Spenny's gone with a position I would have put him in, goalkeeper. So you're definitely Spenny's in goal. We've got that sorted. Now Nathan said I'd be like John Joe in centre midfield, knocking the ball about, not doing much running. Al Walid will have to do my running for me. So we've got Nathan in centre midfield. Andrea says he's lost a bit of pace, so somewhere in midfield. So he's like a prime David Batty. So we've got no legs in midfield. Martin says defence. My knees are shot, so no running in me. So that's great, because that leaves us with me and the Toon Army Toronto lads to fill in the rest of the places, and Daz as well. Daz, where are you going to be?
Oh, one answer, Steve. Number 9.
Oh, number 9, right. So Daz, how tall are you?
Not tall enough.
Right, okay. So we're going to have to play a ball to your feet. So you're up front. Toon Army Toronto lads. We've got one lad in the back for Martin. We need another 3 defenders. Have we got 3 defenders amongst you if we're going to go 4-4-2?
We can do a back 5. You can join the 4 of us.
Yeah.
I love it.
I was gonna say I'll be left back, but probably on the team bus.
Al Walid, that puts you on the wing then. Are you okay with that?
Actually, I'm retired now. I'm coach now.
Oh, you're coach. We still need you to play in this game. You can
I used to play left back. Very good.
All right. But did you play left wing back? You can push up. If you can push up on this occasion, that means I can go up front with Daz. You see, I can be Daz's Joe Linton to his Shearer. Did you?
I used to play left back.
Good one.
In the dressing room.
Well, the clock's beating us, lads. We've actually gone in extra time. As always, absolute pleasure to have you lads on from around the world. And Toronto Toon Army lads, let's get a little bit of a name check to where people can find out about you, because I've noticed there's 1 or 2 people I think in Canada are at least getting in touch there, and Toronto possibly as well. So give you a shout where people can find you, and if they want to come and get in touch and potentially meet up with you and increase the Fab 4 to a dirty dozen maybe.
Exactly. So I don't know if you guys can see the handles on the flag behind it, or it just dips down a little bit. So okay. Twitter is Toon Army Toronto. Facebook, we've got Toon Army Toronto and Toon Army Canada. Our Instagram recently changed, so it's toon.army.toronto. They're the places you can find us. All information about our supporters bar is on there, and where we meet up. Any future events that are coming up for like games, etc., and any meetups that we do.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, listen, best of luck with it. And we'll definitely get you back on, lads. You've all been great, and a welcome addition to today's show. And a big thanks again to Martin, Andre, Nathan, Daz, Al Walid, and last but not least, Spenny. Big thanks to you all for coming on, and we'll get you back on again in the near future. Enjoy your week, lads, and speak to you all soon. Take care.